Okay guys, since the last time I left you, I was in southern Utah and we saw Valley of the Gods, all those arches, and we just had a really fun time. But I had one issue with that adventure, and that was there was way too much pavement. There was way too much blacktop that I was driving on to get to these destinations, and I wasn't really spending enough time on the trail. So I thought I'd come up with a remedy for that. And on this adventure, not only are we going to be out here for many days, and yes, I say many because it's going to be 4 days or more, but not only are we going to be out here for that many days, we are also going to be on nothing but dirt, fingers crossed. And why do I say that? Because when I made this route, I designed it all based around a bunch of historical areas, a bunch of scenic views, places I've never been to, and the biggest one, I wanted it to be nothing but dirt. So that's what I'm hoping it is. Now, like I said, I'm hoping in the sense of that there shouldn't be any asphalt out here, and the only time I should have to go to asphalt is if I need fuel. And the reason I say that is because this is 380 miles. The route I designed is 380 miles of nothing but dirt. I'm kind of proud of myself for that. But we are going to see just how well it goes. Now, out here, the trails that I have designed it on from the research that I did are anywhere from a 1 to a 3 in technical rating. Some areas you need to have a high clearance 4x4 to get through. Other areas you could drive your pickup truck or little Subaru down. And honestly guys, I have no idea where those are, what they'll actually be like. That is just what I found in my research. And so far, they haven't been difficult. I got here yesterday. I drove for 12 hours to this exact spot yesterday. It took me about 9 hours to hit the dirt and another few hours to get here because I drove 70 miles on dirt to this campsite. And right now I've got the Jeep all packed up because it's, you know, I've been up for a little bit. I've been enjoying this spectacular campsite because here in just a second I'm going to show you what I got to look at all night, and I had no idea it was here. So watch this. Boom! Look at that. That right there, guys, is part of the Grand Canyon. When I came to this campsite last night, I rounded a corner, had no idea this was here, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But I saw this and I was blown away. This is beautiful. And this is kind of a great way of starting off our journey. Because throughout our journey, one of the things we're going to be doing is following this. We're going to be following the Grand Canyon west. We are on the North Rim at the moment on, you know, public land, BLM, part of the National Forest, things like that. And we're going to be following it. And we have a bunch of, like I said before, some historical things. We got some things to go check out along the way as we cover our 380 miles. And we are currently in Arizona. We will not be ending in Arizona. We'll be ending in another place. This is a kind of a multi-state trip. There's your guess. But where we're going to end, I think, will be absolutely spectacular and a great way to finish the journey. But that is days from now. We have to have fun now. We got to have fun now, you know. We're here. We're living in the present. But a little thing about how I got here. So yesterday I hit the dirt, started driving, and as I said, this was 70 miles. This campsite is 70 miles from the main road, and it was all dirt. Trail wasn't difficult. But what happened was, at a certain point, my mapping system, Gaia, kind of went haywire. it stopped showing me the trails, things like that. All it would show me is the route that I built, which was great. And it showed me all my little pinpoints, but it wasn't showing me all the little side trails to those pinpoints and things. So when I came looking for camp, I was taking a guess on where the side trail was, roughly off of my little yellow line that I had drawn on the map. And it was kind of a shot in the dark on, oh, well, hopefully I end up at this camp. And off of the mapping system, this camp looked like, from the topography, it looked like it was based up along a cliff. You know, like it had the cliff wall. It was the opposite, it is the cliff, which was awesome. But my mapping system has righted itself, so we'll be good the rest of the journey, hopefully. Fingers crossed. It was a little bit of a, well, I don't know. You'll find out when we get there. But this was a spectacular thing to see last night in Golden Hour. The camp near, guys, it is beautiful out here. But I am all packed up, and it is time that we hit the trail and go see some points of interest that I want to see, and I think you guys will find absolutely amazing. Because I've never been out here, lived in Arizona for 20-something years. I have never been up to this part of the state, and I'm super excited to go check it out. So let's get our butts on the trail. That was an epic campsite. That was, like I said earlier, completely a mystery. Had no idea it was there. But we are now back on the route that I created, because that campsite was tucked up a ways. It was out of the way of the main trail. And we're heading towards another lookout point for the Grand Canyon. Like I said, we are going to be following the Grand Canyon west. As the Colorado River flows, and I'm hoping at certain points we'll be able to actually get down near the river. I have some of those areas marked from what I did in my research. I should be able to get down to the river itself, so that'd be really cool to do. But this is going to be fun. I'm really excited to try and do 380 miles on nothing but dirt. Now don't get me wrong, like I said before, I have fuel points that I'm calling ditch out points, to where I can head back 60 something miles in certain areas to civilization, fill back up and go back. We're gonna see just what we can do. I do have my jerry can, you know, I have 5 gallons of fuel and everything like that, which, if my math is correct, I could do the whole adventure without getting fuel with the jerry can. But that's not including mishaps, things like that. So we will see. I have my, you know, like I said, there's multiple spots, so I have my point of no return aspect, of which where I could either use the jerry can to go so I can get fuel or continue on. We'll see when we get there, but that's a problem for later on. We won't be there for a while. But this is gonna be exciting, guys. All right, I was driving along. There's this little pull off right here, which is nice, off the trail. But I was driving along and I looked out my window and this is what I saw. It is spectacular. Oh my God, is it beautiful. Now, if you remember from earlier, we camped over there. Off that ridge right there, I was camped off over there. So we are slowly working our way along the ridge here. But this is a part of the view I could see, but I couldn't see down into the canyon like I could now. Wow, that is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm hoping that throughout our journey that there's more views like that, because it is spectacular to see the Grand Canyon, not just from the north side, but from different angles and viewpoints. Oh, I'm in heaven, guys. Absolute heaven. Well guys, this is viewpoint 1 and it's still the Grand Canyon. We camped way over there and that's where we started this morning, and this is just more of the Grand Canyon. I know the Colorado River is down there somewhere and we'll eventually find it, but this is beautiful. Holy crap. There's just all the different little vantage points you get, all the different views. It is absolutely stunning, and there's some blue sky over there, which I'm hoping will come this way, but we'll see. I had to put a jacket on because the temperatures dropped and the wind picked up. God, guys, that is absolutely beautiful. I am so happy right now. But we still have a lot more to cover today and a lot more to see, so let's get going. Update, we did have to do some backtracking. So the route I made, like I said, I made it on Gaia, not a sponsor of the channel, but I made it on there, and everything when I made it said it was a driving route. It never said anything about hiking or anything like that. Well, as we left that last little viewpoint, I found where the trail was supposed to split, and the people in charge of BLM land and the National Forest and stuff like that have deemed the way that I wanted to go no longer accessible to motor vehicles. You could hike it all day and night, but you could not drive it anymore. So we do have to backtrack just a little bit. We're almost done backtracking to where the trail splits off again, and we will start making our way back towards where the trail reconnects. I'm hoping that by doing all this backtracking and taking this, other set of trails, that when I reconnect with what I made, that it's actually drivable at that point. I'm hoping that they haven't marked off like a whole massive section of a trail non-drivable anymore. That's my hope. Fingers crossed. But we are going to turn here and take off and see where we can go. Now folks, no one likes to backtrack, but it is all part of the adventure, and that is why having a great mapping system is so important, because you'll never know what you will find when you have to reroute. Found cows, and they got the babies. So cool. Never know what you're gonna find out here. Turn the corner, boom, cows. It's pretty cool. I would never have found them if I wouldn't have had to backtrack and take a whole new route, which is awesome. They were right there, right close. What? Well, you guys can tell, just kind of got dicked in the head with a dead tree. So there was right out here, I'll show you guys there in a second, there's a tree that was hanging, died, fallen over, and part of it is hanging in the trail, and the Jeep wasn't going to clear it. So I got out to push it over some. And as I pushed it, the solid branch that I was pushing on snapped. And the tree came back and smacked me right in the face. Glad I had my sunglasses on, but it nicked me right here between the teeth, here. None of my teeth are broken or loose, which is great. But it did scratch the gums. Ugh. I got my arm too. So I'm just going to take a second here and chill for a moment before I continue on. This is the tree. Okay, this was the solid branch that I was pushing on, which is now there, and this came back and hit me right in the face. All because this upper branch was hanging right here over this part of the trail. Woo, the view at the end of this better be worth it. That's all I can say right now. That's all I can say. All right, everybody. Accidents happen out on the trail, and the best thing to do is just to stay calm, take a deep breath, clean yourself up, and continue on with the adventure. Because if I wouldn't have continued on, I wouldn't have seen this awesome view at the end of the trail. It was completely worth it, but just be aware, guys, that accidents can happen, and those dead trees, you like to hit back. Okay. Took us an hour. I didn't film any of it coming back because that stretch of road right there is long, tons of turns. I'm glad I'm off of it. Okay, this right here was the road that we took to that road. This is where we came down. This road right here is the road I want to follow in the hopes, crossing my fingers, that it'll continue to where all those campsites are that I have marked, and we can continue on, because this is the part of the route that I built. So that is the plan. So, slightly warming up-ish. It's like 52 now. It's been cold all day. But we're going to continue down this way, guys, and see what we can do. The Jeep, she's holding up pretty well. I'm very proud of her. And the new suspension has been awesome. But let's get going. So glad that we are back on at least the trail itself that I had marked out. Puts us kind of back on course a bit, and also being off of that little trail that was out and back that took us way out there so you could see more of the Grand Canyon. It's nice to be back on a trail that's a little bit wider and doesn't have as many trees up and around it. That trail, though it was, you know, fun, it wasn't super technical whatsoever. You could easily have gone through there in a regular old two-wheel drive truck if you wanted to. Maybe not a long wheelbase, super long wheelbase, but a regular wheelbase. It wasn't super technical or anything. It was just so long, and there were so many just tight little turns that you had to get through. And you are constantly on the edge trying to avoid cacti all over the trail, or avoid you know, doing any kind of damage to massive trees on one side, because some of them had branches that were sticking out pretty far, and trying to avoid them, you know, knowing I got stuff on top that would hit it or off to the side. Just, it's nice to be on a little bit wider of a trail, I do have to admit. But it is time for the hunting of camp. I'm very excited because it is 3 o'clock. It took about an hour to get off of that trail. So my hope is, like I said, that this will continue to be a trail that I can follow, and I can just start checking off those campsites as we go. I'm hoping to get to one of my campsites further down the trail, but we'll see. It all depends on if this continues to stay put, how technical the trail is, which, you know, constitutes how long it's going to take. As the Jeep kind of calms down. I am definitely one of the first people on some of these trails. There is still snow on the ground on this particular little trail that I'm on, and I have been pushing through some snow, and it's been quite a bit of snow, I have to admit. And the Jeep is, you know, it's fighting it. Lots of high revs, pushing through. Just not expecting any of this. It's been so dry out here this whole time. Hang on, more snow. But we are so close to the main trail that I wanted to be on. I just got to get through some of the snow. Ugh. Well guys, welcome to camp. Yes, it is dark. I decided to push through to get to this point, and unfortunately, all you can see is the tent. But right here, which you won't see till morning, is a spectacular view. I'm not going to spoil it, because I am standing on the edge of a cliff. And it is freaking beautiful. But you guys won't be able to see that till morning, because this was a spot I wanted to get to. So when we started tomorrow, we have this to see. We may actually do a little hike in the morning. I haven't decided on that. We'll see how well I sleep. But that is going to be it for tonight, guys. Because it's so dark, it's going to be really hard to show you guys food, things like that, like I wanted to. But that's okay. But I will see you all in the morning. Good morning, everybody. Last night was rough. The wind came through here like a freight train. Holy crap. For at least 3 hours, the tent was just flapping like crazy. So I was awake for those 3 hours. But I promised you guys an epic campsite, because this is what I found last night when I pulled in. Ready? I don't think you're ready. Boom. But it's just not one boom. Boom. This is awesome. This is still the Grand Canyon. This is still considered part of the Grand Canyon, and that is the Colorado River down there. Now, there is a trail actually right behind the camera, and it wigwams its way all the way down to the river. And I think this morning, in a little bit, after I pick up and have breakfast and everything, I think we might go and do that little hike down there, or at least I will. You guys will meet me at the bottom down there and actually touch the Colorado River, because honestly, I've never actually touched the Colorado River, especially not in the Grand Canyon either. So I think we might do that later. Also, it gives me a little break from just sitting in the Jeep all day, because we have all sorts of other things to do. But it's going to be another fun-filled day, guys. But I'm still waking up. And I still got a little bit of packing up to do. But what an awesome spot. I knew when I pulled into camp last night that this was going to be really beautiful in the morning. But now that I've woken up, it's not just beautiful. It's astonishingly beautiful, guys. It is awesome out here. Absolutely love it. Well, guys, I made the hike down here. Here's the Grand Canyon, there is the mighty Colorado River, and I am standing right next to it. And it wasn't actually not that hard of a hike. It was pretty steep. This is the lowest elevation I've been in months. But it wasn't that bad. It just, you came down, literally, turn you here, we came down the face of the Grand Canyon. There is a little trail that actually brings you down here, which was awesome, because it means I didn't have to ford or climb over a bunch of rocks. I was able to actually come down to this point. Now, you're probably wondering, isn't this part of the Grand Canyon National Park? No. Though the Grand Canyon National Park spans hundreds of miles and actually protects the Grand Canyon and the Colorado River, there are actually tiny little pockets throughout the western half of the Grand Canyon that is actually protected by BLM. So this is technically BLM land that I'm on. A little further down is probably the national park again. Back up that way is the national park. Right here is BLM. Go figure. But a funny thing is the Grand Canyon and the Colorado River are protected by the national park. The national park didn't become a national park till 1919 by President Woodward. And then it was declared a National Heritage Site in 1979. And the first concept of protecting this place was formed back in like 1850. Like 1850 was the first aspect of, hey, let's protect this land, and it didn't take into effect till 1919, February of 1919. And then become a World Heritage Site till 1979. Like, that's crazy. It is beautiful. And that is the reason why they protected it, was to keep its beauty. It is absolutely gorgeous down here, guys. I am so happy I decided to make the hike down here. It was absolutely worth it, because you can't just be driving all the time. You gotta enjoy the little things. Now, a bucket list thing of mine has always been to touch the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. Well, I am standing in the Grand Canyon. That's the Colorado River. I think it's time we touch some water. Grand Canyon, Colorado River. There you go, guys. I finally can tick that off my bucket list. I have touched the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. What an absolutely fantastic day. Well, that was a nice little hike, and it is absolutely beautiful to be able to come back up here, see where I was down there. But it is time to get our butts in gear, get on back on the trail. But it is going to be another great day. That was just a great start to it. Now, if you're hearing a squeaking, that's actually the shocks. I don't know why, but the shocks squeak quite a bit. It's just the rear shocks. The rear shocks are very much squeaky, and it started midday yesterday, and it stops on and off. I don't know. I haven't got a clue. Guys, it's going to be a little loud in here. Everything's kind of rattling, but we are on one of the county roads heading towards St. George. And the reason why is, one, we're going to get fuel. I've made the decision we're going to get fuel. We're at about 1/4 of a tank, and even though I have the Jerry on top that's full, we'd have to get fuel tomorrow if I used it. So I made the decision to get fuel now, because when we came back up, when I finally got back up on top of everything from where we were at this morning down by the canyon, there were a lot of dark storm clouds, and there was just dumping rain. And I decided, well, it's right along. I turned on my Zoleo, looked at the weather, and the path that it was going was right over top of everything I wanted to go to. So I said, all right, we're just gonna go get fuel and kind of let that storm blow past, because past it is blue skies. So I'm gonna let that go past, because if you have never been in the deserts before, when it starts to storm and there's lots of rain, the desert does not soak it up. It just leaves it cool. And everything I wanted to go to, it would have just made it 5 times harder to get to them. It could have become impossible. Some areas could have become so muddy it would have not have happened. So my hope is letting that pass by getting fuel and coming out of my way to do this. By the time we get back out this way again, the storm will have gone bye-bye and the sun is going to be nicely out like it is now. I skirted around the storm just in time. I had a little bit of it hit my windshield before I made a turn and basically went completely out and around the storm. My hope is that this is the only bit of the storm. It wasn't supposed to be this kind of weather this week, but Mother Nature, as we all know, likes to throw lots of curveballs at me and prove me wrong. Alright guys, I know it's a little windy, but this is actually a really cool place. This is actually called Tazzy Ranch. And what Tazzy Ranch is it is one of the only settlements out here that actually succeeded way back in the day. Now, this area is made up of a bunch of different springs and has roots dated back to 1870 by the Native Americans, but it wasn't until 1920 by a man named Ed Yates that actually settled on this area here. And what's funny is Mr. Yates settled on government land. The government actually owned this land way back when, but when Mr. Yates settled on it and he built all these buildings behind me, he built by hand, and he had the land changed over to his name, so he owned it. And he owned it for a very, very long time. And there was a point where he did leave the land and left it to some people to handle, because they used to do cattle and there was some other mining that was taking place out here. But when he left the land, this whole place went to ruin. It destroyed, the people didn't uphold it, and so when he came back, he actually kicked the people off his land and refixed up all these buildings to a perfect state so he could live back on the property. Now, in today's world, these are historic buildings that are protected by the federal government. And honestly, guys, they're in pretty good shape for being as old as they are. They're over 100 years old, and they're still in pretty decent shape. But Mr. Yates, when he retired from ranching and mining and doing all this, he gave it over to a family called the Whitmore family. And the Whitmore family had this land till 2001. In 2001, they sold it to the federal government. So the federal government, who owned the land in the beginning, lost it and then had to buy it back, which is actually, I think, is hilarious. But this place has been well preserved, guys. Now, you cannot enter these buildings. You do not want to enter these buildings. One, there's hantavirus, there are bats in there, and there is a ton of asbestos and black mold. But they are in actually pretty decent shape, despite how, you know, they're 100 years old. They actually look pretty good. But you don't want to enter the buildings, any of these things, and you want to be very careful when you're walking, because you are allowed up on here. There is a gate. Please shut it behind you. But just be careful when you're walking through the grass, guys, because there are so many springs. This is a massive area for wildlife. So you're talking snakes are in the grass, all sorts of other things. So you just want to be careful. But this is an absolutely cool find. To think that this was one of the only settlements out here that actually succeeded. Don't get me wrong, there were other settlements, there were tons of mines, but all those never succeeded. This did, which is pretty cool to think that this succeeded all the way till 2001 when they handed it over to the government. This is a pretty cool place. Now, it is almost time for camp. We are getting close to time for camp, and I wanted to get the camp early after yesterday getting in late. Now, you cannot camp here on the ranch at all, but you can travel down this way to where a bunch of the creeks meet and head out towards the Colorado River. Now, we're not going to get near the Colorado River, but we can get to where some of those creeks meet, and I have some campsites that could be a good potential marked out. So we're going to go check those out, and hopefully they pan out. Otherwise, my other ones are back that way. But we're going to go down that way. But this is pretty cool, guys. 100 years of success right here, and they're still holding up. Also, what does that tell you about buildings way back in the day? They're still up over 100 years, and modern day buildings break after they hand you the keys. Go figure. Alright guys, let's get back on the road. Alright guys, we have made it to camp, and what a day it has been. Starting off out there on the rim and actually going into the Grand Canyon and touching the Colorado River was awesome, and I got to check off something off my bucket list. And then, honestly, most of the day was spent driving around. So I ended up having, got fuel, avoided a massive storm while I was in town. I looked up the weather patterns, things like that. Then I took an alternate route out here, and then we got to see Tazzy Ranch, which is really cool to see that. But so far on this adventure, I have driven 270 miles. That is right, 270 miles on dirt. Just dirt, which has been awesome. And I've only touched asphalt for that little bit of time that I had to get fuel. And honestly, guys, in total, it was like 10 miles. Because it was 5 miles to the gas station, 5 miles back to the trail. It has been great. But that 270 is not including the trail that I had to take to get to the gas station and back. It was just back on my trail system, which means we have just over 100 miles to do left of this journey, which, guys, it has been awesome. And we probably will not finish it tomorrow, but we will here in the next couple days. And it'll be sad, but I am having an absolute blast. It has been so nice to get out here and explore an area of Arizona that I've never been to before. It's been great. And we've been chasing the Colorado River. Remember how I said at Tazzy Ranch we'd stay near where a lot of those little creeks and things connected? They connect right here. They're all connected at this point, and this flows out to the Colorado River. Now, it looks kind of dried up. There actually is water down there. It's a little. And there are some cows grazing. There is some water down there, and it does flow out that way to the Colorado River, so it is great. And their bugs are a little everywhere. But tonight, we are making something that I've never made at camp before, but I love making at home, which is Cajun pasta. It's going to be a chicken Cajun pasta dish. So, in here I got some water. We're going to get that boiling. Got some water going. Let that get to a boil. Just got some plain Jane pasta, enough for me. And maybe another meal, we'll see. At least seconds. And then in here we have our chicken. And I do have some carrots. Did bring carrots. I don't have a peeler, but that's okay. I'm just going to chop them up. Once the pasta's done, everything's going to end up in this pot. We're going to take out said chicken, and we are going to pierce it. There. And yes, I'm smelling the chicken. So the last time I took chicken out, it was still frozen, and then I let it de-thaw while it's in the fridge. What happened was I left it till like the last night to do it, and I was out for 3 days. The chicken had turned bad, and it stank. So that is why I kind of smelled the chicken to make sure that it was still okay. It's only been in there for 2 days. Well, 3 if you count today, but it smells just fine. But what I do is I remove the skin, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to pull out the bone. So I use chicken thighs just because I like the way the flavor is, and they stay, tender a lot better than a chicken breast. And they're a little more forgiving, where a chicken breast is not quite as forgiving. I'm going to toss that in there. Okay, now that I have all the chicken skinned and deboned, I'm going to cut it up. Now, one thing I did forget on this trip is my cutting board, unfortunately. I took it in to give it a nice thorough washing, and I completely forgot it on the drying rack. Mistakes were made. Alright, the pasta's ready to go in. I've got all the chicken cut up. Next, I'm going to recover that some. I'm going to grab One of my favorite things to take to camp, cooking spray. And it's one of my favorites because before I had these lovely non-stick pans, which work just great, I had regular pans, and when I put the cooking spray, if I didn't have it, everything stuck to it and it was impossible to clean, and I'd waste a ton of water trying to. Now I take this, not only does this heat up really quickly, it also makes it so it's like really non-stick. It's just like a one wipe clean out, which is awesome. All right. Ooh. This is gonna be tasty. Now what I like to do with this is, though it all gets mixed in at the end, while the chicken's cooking, I like to flavor it with a little bit of the Cajun seasoning already. And the reason I do that is it ensures that the chicken has a lot of that Cajun flavor. My pan is trying to overboil on me. But it allows that chicken to get a lot of that flavoring, and then when I mix it all together, it'll get even more. So, one of the other little bamboo spoons I had molded, so it ended up getting thrown out. So I'm making this into a dual-wielded spatula. One side for the chicken, the other side to spin the pasta. That smells really good. I'm excited. Now what I'm going to do with the carrots is pretty straightforward, guys. I'm going to cut them down. I'm only going to cut about 3 of them. I've been eating these as I drive. I'm just going to cut them down, nice little cubes. I'm going to set them off to the side, and then they'll go in at the end with the pasta, the cook, and everything else. And if you're wondering, yes, I'm using the table as a cutting board, and yes, I wiped the table completely down and sterilized it before doing so because it sits on top of the Jeep. I may be crazy, but I'm not a savage. And it's coming along nicely. And the pasta is just about done. So another thing I'm going to be adding to this, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Normally I put it on the side, but honestly, guys, in the effort of keeping it simple, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to take my can of green beans and I'm just going to add it to everything else. Whew! That wind likes to pick up now and again. So what you didn't see me do was I drained some of the water out of the pasta because the pasta is done. The carrots are in there starting to cook. What I'm going to do now is, though I know the chicken isn't completely done, it's going to finish cooking in the pot with all the other seasoning and ingredients, and I'm also going to add my green beans in here. This is kind of becoming a one-pot wonder, if you will, but it's going to be Cajun pasta. So now that the chicken's almost there, which is perfect, I'm going to take that and throw it all into this pot, and I'm going to give it a nice good stir. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add even more of the Cajun seasoning, like I said. Now I love Cajun food, I love Cajun seasoning, so I like adding quite a bit, especially when I'm making pasta, so that it actually will coat everything. And there still is a little bit of water within this pot to help it kind of bind together. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it like so, actually kind of half cover it, and I'm just going to let that cook. And while that's cooking, I'm going to clean up my mess here. my stuff is clean, and it is done. I'm very excited. I'm also very hungry. Set that there. Ooh, smells awesome. Start with this little bit and then I'll get more. But this looks absolutely amazing. Hot. Mmm. This is awesome pasta. Well guys, I'm going to enjoy my dinner, relax for the rest of this evening, and I will catch you all in the morning. Guys, we are on the move, and my goal for today is we have a few mines to go see and a special place that I want to end at for the day, and it should all be within the scope of today. Now I did wake up to some clouds in the sky, but I think they're all gonna just kind of disappear as the sun keeps rising. But boy, last night once again, at some point in the morning, the wind came howling through. Oh my goodness, it was so loud. I was awake for at least an hour, and then it stopped. It's been weird, I don't know. But throughout this journey, we've been following the Colorado River. That's kind of how it started, was with us being on top of the Grand Canyon. That hasn't changed. We're still following the Colorado River. Just right now, we are more on the inland area from the Colorado River, because we saw Tazzy Ranch. Up from there, there are, like I said, are some mines that we're going to go see today, and then we're going to head back towards following the Colorado River, because I promised you guys mines and a few other things. And it's taken a little bit to get to them, guys. We've traveled now about 290 miles on dirt. It's a lot. 290 miles, all dirt. And like I said, that doesn't include me running up to get fuel and then coming back. If I do that, I'm well over 300 miles. But the fact that this journey alone, 290 miles, nothing but dirt so far, has been splendid. Absolutely awesome. I'm so happy. Okay, this trail has gotten a little bit rural, I'll be honest with you. It's not one that is typically used, just based off the wear of it, and the Jeep is just a hair wider than the trail, because you can tell it's just been carved out by people on side-by-sides, which is absolutely fine. But we are trying to get out to one of these mines out here, and they're, you know, coming from one direction, there's a whole nother trail that gets to the mine itself, and then coming from the direction I am, this is the only trail that leads you out to the mine, which tells me that a lot of people are not coming to see this mine from this direction. Now, don't get me wrong, this trail isn't difficult, it's just very narrow, and I have to keep an eye out for the little tracks, and then an eye on Gaia to make sure I'm still on the trail, just because when it rains in the desert, all the little weeds and grass sprout up, and let me tell you, it is completely covering the trail at times. But this is all part of the adventure. It's still a lot of fun. I'm having a blast, but my goodness, this trail just keeps getting more interesting. This trail is slow going. We're definitely cutting between all the little mountains through this trail. And honestly, in true regards, the trail isn't difficult in terms of technical. It is not super hard. It's just, I would not suggest bringing anything wider than a Jeep down here. If it's wider than a Jeep, don't bring it down here. My Jeep barely fits on this path, and it is tight. And there are a ton of cacti off to the side of the trail that I'm constantly having to make sure I'm not clipping with my tires. It's going to be a little breezy up here because it's quite windy at times, but there's the Jeep. We're up on top of all the mountains around me, as you can tell. But what's really cool is we were camped right down there on that marshland, and that's where we were this morning, and we came all the way up this, and look how beautiful this is. It's absolutely fantastic, guys. Wow, is it beautiful. And what's even cooler is right over there is Nevada. That mountain range is in Nevada over there. That tells you how close to the border I am. Woo! What a beautiful day, guys. Absolutely beautiful day. But we still got to keep going because the mine is this close. We're this close. So let's keep going. Alright guys, it's a little bit windy, but this is the Cunningham mine. This mine was around, the earliest dating I could find was about 1950, and then it went bust about 1957. And what they were mining for was copper. You can see copper in a lot of the rocks out here. It's all been turning green. But there are 3 different mine shafts. There's one right there in front of the camera, and this one here, and one up there. And it's pretty crazy to think that people were all the way out here mining for copper. And the reason that these mine went bust isn't because they couldn't find copper. There was still copper. It was a 70-mile trek to take the copper ore all the way to the closest railway station that was in Nevada. It was a 70-mile trek via mule. They'd load it up in the carts, they'd go down that mountain pass. That pass that we came up was actually the mountain road they used, and they take it all the way down there. They would pass the Tazzy ranch, that's where they'd stop for the evening, or stop when they finally get there, and then they would continue down the road, which we will be going through later, to Nevada, to where they would unload their stuff in what is now the town of Mesquite, and it would be at the railway station. Then they'd have to come all the way back. That's a lot of time, effort, and honestly, there were mines way closer to the railway stations producing way more, and the funding just ran out for this place. But it is still kind of cool to see that it's still here, and yes, these holes are caved in, if you will. This one has some wood over it, that one's got a plank, that one's been rocked in, so you cannot enter the mines. And you don't really want to enter these mines, guys. They can be very unstable, and the wood is so old in there, it's not really supporting anything anymore. And this was a really cool find. Now, like any old mine site, you just have to be careful when you're looking around, guys. Now, like I said, these are collapsed, so it was relatively safe to look around at the holes in the ground. But just be aware as you're walking around, because it is an old mine site, there is tons of wood, nails, and glass scattered all over the ground. Now it is time to get back on the road for just a short little drive over to our next site. Established in 1873, the Grand Gulch Mine was considered the most successful mining operation in the area, and you probably guessed it, it was a copper mine. Now, in its heyday, this place housed between 30 to 80 people, depending on the time of year, and in the beginning, they did what was called hard rock mining, which means by hand. And as time went by, they upgraded to the machinery that you kind of see hanging around still. That took away a lot of the labor from the miners, made life just a little bit easier. And today, this machinery is still here, being reclaimed by nature, and just shows the scale of this mining operation. Now, as you wander around this area, you're probably wondering where the tunnels are at. All the caves are caved in, or at least access to them, but 500 feet below us is this series of tunnels that span across this area where they used to do all their mining, and it is still covered with equipment that they used to use. Now, be careful when wandering around. There's tons of metal sticking out in the ground, and this equipment isn't exactly safe to play in, so be very careful. Now, most of the buildings that are here on the property have been around for a very, very long time, obviously, but they were all constructed at different time periods during the mine's operation. As the mine was growing its success, they had to build more buildings, and most of them are still around today. Now, you have to be very, very careful. Though they're still around, and yes, you can't enter them, there is a lot of black mold. There are a lot of bats that call these buildings home, just as owls. So just be careful as you're wandering through this area in the buildings, and please don't vandalize them. I saw no vandalizing on any of the buildings, which is awesome, and it keeps them preserved. So just respect the area in which you are in. Now, the mine closed in 1919. It basically ran out of copper ore, and they couldn't find anything, so they closed the mining operation. Well, the Signal Oil and Gas Company in 1950 decided to reopen the mine in the hopes of finding something, which they never did. And the mine closed again in 1960 and was handed over to the Bureau of Land Management, who now maintains this little slice of heaven for travelers. Such as this smelter. This smelter was built in 1878. 1878. This was constructed and was still around and was used during the entire history of the mining operation here. And it is amazing. It's just all of clay construction and brick, and it is just still standing, guys. Over 100 years later, it is still standing. It is absolutely spectacular to see. Well, that was pretty cool. I love finding these old mining areas, and especially this one. This one was completely just well maintained for the most part, and it actually gives you the feel of it was a true little mining area, little colony and whatnot, which is awesome. Now, I do apologize that you had to listen to me do it all, you know, as a voiceover. It was just so windy. Oh my goodness. The wind is so bad right now that you can't hear anything, and it is just blowing dust like crazy. But it was still nice to just get out, walk around, explore this area, see it all. That was absolutely awesome. But now, it's time to head to what I was telling you guys was going to be kind of a really cool way to end this trip, you know, the very end destination. We're going to start working our way there. There is one more little area that I want to stop at and check out. It is along the way, but it's not for a little bit. But I got to do a lot of sort of backtracking on some of the route that we came, but we're not going down that massive road with all the huge rock climb. We're not doing that, but there is another route, but we have to backtrack a bit. So I will catch you all when we get closer to that other little destination I want to check out. Right there's a donkey. Look at them go. They're on the trail, but they're right there. Look at babies. Woo! And just like that, we're in Nevada. And boy, Nevada's got a lot of washboard roads. Boy, corrugation central. But we're in a new state. We're still working our way there. It's taken a bit, but it's been fun. And I've been watching the storm. I'm hoping that it continues to keep blowing out and not change direction, because that is a lot of rain and there's been some lightning. So we'll see. It's all part of the adventure. Well, guys, this is the town of Gold Butte. What's left? There ain't anything here. I was expecting some old abandoned buildings, something. There ain't shit. To put it frankly, there ain't anything. There is the gravesite, which is right in front of the Jeep of the 2 people that founded the town and basically refused to leave. And then once they left, they knew that they were platforms, slabs, stuff out here. And what this place was a gold little area. Basically, they found gold here and it disappeared like that. Yeah. So this is it. This was the cool, interesting thing I wanted to show you guys. Hey, it still is. Sometimes it just doesn't pan out. And the storm, it is starting to dissipate, but back there is still excessively dark, so we shall see. How good is this, guys? That is Lake Mead. And this is camp for the night. How awesome is that? I told you, following the Colorado River from the Grand Canyon all the way to where it meets Lake Mead. We have made it. I am so happy. And this, let me just turn you. This is camp. It's not set up yet, but it's camp. And right now, guys, I know the sun has disappeared, but it is beautiful out here. Besides a plane flying overhead, it is crystal still. It is absolutely fantastic. God, I am so happy. The best job in the world. Absolutely love it. But because light is fading, dinner is nothing extravagant. I'm going to have some leftover pasta from last night. We got to set up camp. And guys, I'm going to pop out my chair and just sit there and take this all in. Alright guys, this is not the way I wanted to close out my video. As you guys can see, Mother Nature decided she wanted to completely change her weather patterns, because this wasn't supposed to come until after I was long gone. This has been going on since 1 this morning, and I mean downpour. So I got up at like 4, I had enough, packed up everything, and started basically a night run back towards the way out. But this is how You know, I was gonna end with the sunrise coming over the lake. There hasn't been any sunrise. I have not seen the sun yet. So it has been an absolutely fun adventure, and the total, because this is blacktop right next to me, the total mileage off road, and I mean my route, the route I made was 400 miles. It was like 399.9 or yeah, 9, something like that. It was basically 400 miles all dirt. If I was to include the run for fuel and back, it was 520 miles all off-road. That's crazy, but it was so much fun. Starting off on the Grand Canyon, ending at different locations. Every campsite was pretty good. And just following the Colorado River, guys, it was awesome. And ending at Lake Mead last night, it was so beautiful. Until about 1 in the morning. And then it went from not being beautiful anymore. But thank you all for joining me on my adventures. If you haven't already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, guys. You guys are what makes this channel happen, and I have a goal of 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I think we can do it. Also, like always, a link in the description to my other social media accounts, as well as a list of parts that I use on my Jeep. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.